in order to learn how to say yes and no, I have to learn how to trust myself and what I find to be my integrity in any given moment. So as I'm exploring that, how do I...
So in other words, the practice of speaking with clarity requires that you become clear with yourself.
Right, exactly.
Isn't that marvelous?
Yeah. So what...
It's so simple, isn't it?
So what is it? What is it specific to me, I guess, or my step right now in my life that will help me find clarity? I've made some pretty clear decisions lately and there's lots of change on the rise, but I think I'm still wishy-washy inside. There's just this, it's just this feeling that I tend to hold with me, and I'm tired of it. I'm done. I don't want to be wishy-washy. I want to be able to say, yes, that's what I want. No, that's not what I want. I want to be able to treat my partner with that kind of integrity. I want to be able to relate with him from a place of, I know what I need. I know how to take care of myself well enough that I can speak that to whoever I'm around.
Well, clarity sometimes involves saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
The key lies in the places where you're being unclear because you're hiding. If you're being unclear because it feels safer than making commitment, that's what you want to stop playing into. At the bottom line, that's part of remaining a child. The Peter Pan syndrome. It's a way of avoiding commitment. I wouldn't worry about that as much as I would give my attention to making more commitments. Being clear about things you can be clear about. And enlarging the number of things you can be clear about. Why? So that you can feel like you're really standing on the ground you're standing on. The only ones for whom your lack of clarity would be valuable would be those who want to use you. Those who would want you to be subject to their rules or the way they want you to be around them, or who want somebody who won't challenge them, and they don't give a damn about you or your integrity. So, what do you get out of being clear? Well, you end up being avoided by those people who would abuse you. Again, being clear is no bigger a deal than saying no, except that it makes all the difference to the way you experience yourself. Every child is wishy-washy, even those born in May. They still are dependent. They still rely on the adults. They they want their way, but they don't know how to get their way. And so they are in a state of reliance. You're just at a threshold of abandoning reliance upon others. You're at a point of discovering that because you're not dealing with parents anymore, you're dealing with other adults who expect you to be an adult, that if you play the child role and you remain wishy-washy, unlike your parents, if your parents were relatively healthy parents, they will not have your best interest at heart. So you learn to be clear so that you stand there in your own right. You're not here to be the sail on someone else's ship.
And one of the ways that I can foster that in myself is just trying to make more commitments.
Absolutely. Well, becoming clear about more things. Stop the habit or the tendency to defer to others and wait to hear what they might suggest.
Mm-hmm. I think my big thing is I'm afraid.
Like the runaway bride. Eat all of the various kinds of eggs so that you can find out which ones you really like.
Mm-hmm. I gotta throw caution to the wind a little bit more, I think.
Pardon?
I think I need to throw caution to the wind a little bit more. Let things happen in my life, not try and wait to commit until I'm so sure that there's no room for mistakes or richness to occur.
That's a good idea. Yes. Provide yourself with as much experience as you can. Explore life with intelligence, but explore it and pay attention to yourself. Again, avoid being unclear when being unclear is a tool you're using to hide from life.
So if I'm doing that, then what do I do? If I notice that, then do I just flip a coin or say, heck, I choose this, or...
Yes. Yes, you choose a direction to move in. It's like the old saying, you can't steer a car that's parked at the curb. Once you put your foot on the gas pedal and the car is moving, you may not be moving in the right direction, but because you're moving, you can change directions. And by virtue of moving, it will become clear to you whether you're moving in the right direction, in the direction you want to be moving in. Yes.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Hands. Yes, in the back.
Well, my cup runneth over. I have so much to be thankful for, and I am deeply grateful. However, there are some areas that could use improvement. One of which is that I'm not hearing my guide at the moment, and my ego pops up and says, well, you probably never did. That was all your imagination. How am I blocking that?
there is a quiet fear that if you continue to hear, or if you hear once again, that it's going to upset the apple cart, the status quo, and that won't be a good or happy thing. There's a fear that it will constitute changes that will be too radical. But you know something? Guidance is an expression of love. And it's always expressing the Father's will for you. And because you're not truly separated from any aspect of creation, infinitely speaking, then guidance is always a blessing to everyone and everything. The guidance you receive will never have disruption and failure as its goal in your life, but greater harmony and greater fulfillment. And so it will not overwhelm you, and it will not overwhelm your family. If anything, your family will perceive you to be a more loving person, a more benign person, not a wimp, but non-threatening. You don't need to be afraid that disruption is going to be the result. And so I want to make it perfectly clear that the love with which you are embraced by your guide and by the Father, and that the function and purpose of this love is to reveal greater and greater harmony and more fulfillment. How could fulfillment be fulfillment if it estranged you from your world? It couldn't and it can't. So let go of the fear. You can even ask your guide to be gentle with you.
Okay. Was the dream that I had about being lifted up into a lighted room and held so lovingly? Was that an encouragement? What was the meaning there?
That was exactly its meaning.
Okay. It was great.
That is the nature of the love with which you are held at every moment.
I like it.
And imagine, if you will, that if you let yourself feel that it couldn't help but ooze out of you in a way that made those around you feel more beautiful. That's what you need to know right now.
Thank you.
You are welcome. You'll find yourself hearing again. Yes. Hands. Here in the front.
There's a book called Ancient Memories by Ronald Way, and it's the story of Jesus' life and his relationship with his friend Asher Ben Ami. Can you comment on the value of that book as a transformational tool, and could you comment on...
Well, let me ask you if you can comment on it as a transformational tool for you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's my favorite book that I've ever read, and it's changing Donna and my life. It's magnificent. And now, would you mind commenting on the historical accuracy?
No, I will not. Because it doesn't matter. It simply doesn't matter. The Christ is the living Christ, now, today. I hesitate to say this only because of the very Catholic way in which it is likely to be heard. But the fact is that I am the living Christ. The reason I hesitate to say it is because it can be so easily misconstrued to mean that I am the only living Christ, when the fact is that every single one of you are my brothers and sisters and are equally the Christ. And the Christ of you is the living Christ, the dynamic presence of God in this moment. I refrain from commenting about history and historical accuracy. It doesn't matter because it isn't something to be relied upon. What needs to be relied upon is the living Christ in this moment that isn't out of the past, but is out of the and I have to use words that involve time, even though time has nothing to do with it. The momentary, the in the moment impulse of God that is the movement of creation or God's self-expression that constitutes you. And if you're looking for the Christ, don't look for the Christ in history. Look for the in-the-moment impulse of God being God that constitutes your in-the-moment conscious experience of being conscious. And the holiness of that experience of being conscious. The only way that book can be of value to you is if it's causing you to connect with and resonate with the living Christ in you now, and the living Christ that I am now. Because that inner movement of connection and meaning is what moves you out of your accumulated false ideas about who and what you are that are keeping you in a state of suffering. You see?
I do.
I don't care what book it is, whether it's A Course in Miracles or the book you mentioned or any other holy book. The essential element of your awakening will always be an inner movement, an inner experience of the impulse of God in action. That whatever book you have been reading has caused you to feel secure enough to let control go enough so that you could feel that impulse of the living God in you illuminating itself as the living Christ that you are.
I think sharing the book, most of my reading's been isolated, and sharing the book with Donna is probably a big part of my experience.
It isn't being a private experience. Yeah. You really can't wake up all by yourself. Yes. So is it the book, or is it the sharing? Or is it both? Or is it the book and the sharing and the feeling of the impulse of God right in the middle of you that is illuminating the living Christ that you are right in the middle of you?
Yes.
Yes. Shall we talk about the historical accuracy of your sharing with Donna, or the practical and mechanical details of your sharing? No. You see, because those things don't matter.
Those are the blocks. Those are all the roads that aren't the real alternative.
That's right. They are distractions. Okay. Hands in the back.
I'd like to make some comments about what I feel has been happening to me, and would you correct me as I move along with my comments where I'm mistaken? Because basically what I'm looking to see is
How long are these comments going to take?
we got all afternoon. No, I'll try to make it brief. I feel that lately, a lot of what you're saying pertains to me, and I think probably to all of us. But as far as the saying no and being clear, and recently, I believe that in doing that, practicing that.
I'm going to interrupt for just a moment. For everyone that I've spoken to so far about this, an interesting factor is that as you express clarity, it moves you into new company. I said it in so many words before that those who can't use you any longer will not want you around. But the more clarity and the more of your integrity you express, the more you will find yourself moved into new company, a new circle of associations that are in harmony with the clarity and integrity that you are expressing, that you are embodying. That's another one of the benefits. Okay, continue.
Could it also move you back into company that you may have departed from and then returned to as a result of the same thing?
It could if the old company has had a transformation and is in a truly new place that is consistent with the integrity and the clarity you're now expressing, but not otherwise, no.
So, well, I'll go on, but that may come up as part of my question. I wasn't necessarily feeling that as a result of the two things.
I will say that the old company that you are truly speaking of has not undergone a transformation, and therefore you would not find a mutual means of communication being present that wasn't there before. It still isn't there.
Or am I clear about who you're talking about? Because there's a couple of different situations.
I'm speaking about him.
I didn't, yes, I agree with you there, totally. And that's not really who I meant. But that's good to know. And that's what I felt.
Yes.
It
is important for you to know that. Continue.
So you're saying that maybe I wasn't as sure as I think I am, that that's the case.
I am saying that there has been the slightest willingness, the slightest willingness to provide benefit of the doubt where it is not yet warranted.
And this is a recently passed relationship that there has not been closure on, but I have let go of. Correct? Is that correct?
This is with him.
Yeah. Well, there's more than one him. But I think another one you're talking about, and that's the relationship.
The big M.
Yeah, okay.